Welcome to another video of a kit from PDF Models from myself. I'm sorry I can't pronounce the word. I call it a wren, okay. We're going to be building it today to show you how the chassis goes together and how the cab gets put together. You see the front, all printed in one piece. Does require some bit of work on the corners because I have to print it like that to make this a lot stronger. So that should be okay. Got the boiler, all the holes and everything in it. Saddle tank, which is very easy. Just clips on there. It's also hollow, so you can fit your battery in there and radio equipment in there. Even though it is quite small, you can get roundhouse speed controller in there if you wanted to go down that route. But before we get to any of this, we'll get to the chassis. This is a test model. This is not what you'll be getting. It'll be slightly different. By that, you have a cutout there for the valve rod. Had to do that because it kept hitting. And also there's a little cutout there which these get glued into. This makes it easier to set up. And also all these parts come silver, so you don't have to paint them. You can leave them as they are. Some bits, the connecting rods, if you want to leave them silver, it's worked out a lot better and quicker. And also there's a slot rather than a hole in there, but that's what you would be getting, which is much better. Oh yeah, and there's also a little hole in there to hold the motor in place with a piece of wire, but I'll show you that later. So what you need to do first is fit the bearings. I use a tapered reamer. One of them. I open the hole out until the tube just goes in. You got the one at the front, which is a solid tube. Do not put that at the back. You will not get your motor to fit in between the spacing. So please make sure tube at the front and the two small 6mm tubes on the rear. That one's really easy. Equal either side. Super glue that into place around there. There will be a small hole on the bottom so you can put oil, so you can oil it up. And the good thing is cylinders are on this one. Right, these ones you put in loose. You get your Slater's wheels. Push that in. Put that in there. Clamp that up. Push your bearings to the wheel, and then when you know you've got no side play or a little bit of side play, super glue around the top. Do not super glue the shaft, done that. Super glue around there, and then let that dry. Take the wheel out, and then paint it. Get everything painted up before in primer. This is black with, I think, red buffer beams. Say, don't put it together beforehand because it's a nightmare taking it apart, putting it together, taking it apart. So yeah, glue your bearings in. So that's all done. Now you've got to set up the wheels. First of all, you have the front axle, which uses the standard crank pin which comes with Slater's wheels. So follow the instructions on how to fit them. It's literally just a crank pin with a brass bush, washer and a nut. So do that first, and then slide that on. I left these on because I didn't want to take them off. And the other one. And make sure you quarter it. Self-quartering makes my life a little easier. Yep. Put the little Allen key screw in. Tighten them up. Lovely and smooth. Check out the rattling. Now these ones. Don't do that yet. Motor gearbox. That will come pre-made by myself. These come in kit form normally, but I will try my best to have this made up for you, because I'm trying to make these kits as easy as possible. A child, or a teenager could assemble without burning his fingers to death. So what you need to do is you get your gears. They're not the easiest of things to do. Motor goes towards the front. Slide that in. Then your gear. Like so. Making sure that the gear is in that way round. There's a slot, otherwise it won't work. Put your other wheel on, making sure that the quartering is exactly the same. Right, so this other rolling chassis. I don't set the little grub screw in there just yet because of you want them to run free while you're setting it up. Right, next stage is cylinders again in previous kits. 3mm brass tube, slide in through there. You may have to open them up with a 3mm drill. Quite easy, you just drill straight into there at the correct angle. Fit both of them. I didn't put the wires on here. Then you've got the cylinder covers. Mine are white because I was again testing the model. They slide over. Like so. Then the most easiest part, bit of square brass. Slide that all the way through. Would help. There. Just slide straight in. Now you can super glue all this into place, making sure that that's flush on that side. So you got your one slide bar on there. If it's too long, you can file that back. If it's too short, just bring it back until it's flush. I do have a cutting jig. Sometimes you never know, it might come too short. So that is that simple to set this up. Try to make it easier than the Hunslet. The Hunslet was a bit of a little bit of a job, but not too bad. So do that to both sides. I'm only going to set up one side. I'm only doing it because I haven't got time. And if you do one side, you know how to do the other. Right, so now that's done, it's setting up the valve gear. Very hard to do. Bit of brass wire will be cut to length already. Slide them through once you've glued these into place. You may have to open the holes up to 1.6, not, oh sorry, 1.5. Don't need to glue that into place just yet, if you don't want to. Once they're on, you get these tiny little printed spacers. They slide over that. And that side. Yep. Then get that part. That slides on there. On this side, slides on there. What you can do then, you can make this valve gear work if you like, but I recommend just to make it look cosmetic. So if you did want to make it move and it wears out, I do sell the whole little pack of parts for £2. So wears out, £2. It shouldn't do too quickly, it's quite hard. So yeah, so you push them on. If you want, you can put dabs of super glue to hold all that into place. Try and make it as straight as possible to the centre of the axle. Or like I said, you could leave it loose and just put a little dab of super glue down in that little hole in there to hold that all into place. Right, so that's done. Now for the fun bit. Connecting rod. One side has a countersunk hole. Your slider. What you need to do is you will have to file the slot until that slides up and down lovely. Is get your countersunk screw, push that in. You can see there's a little bit of thread left. So it's like that. You use a flat screw on that side so make sure it misses everything. Put a dab of super glue on the nut to stop it from coming loose. You just want to do it hand tight with then a bit of glue so it can pivot about. Then you put your 2mm rod in the hole. My screws come off already. Now you know why I say glue it. Push that on there. Slide that on. So now you have a working piston. Make sure it's nice and loose, makes the motor work less. And so you can super glue the rod to that slider and put a bit of drop of 3-in-1 oil on there. There is rear cylinder covers. I haven't got any printed for my one, but literally just a little flat disc with some detail which gets glued on there. Matches a radius. Very simple. Right. Now for the fun bit. You need to cap your return crank. Has a hexagon on the top, and what will happen is you get your 8BA bolt, slide that in, it will go in. There you go. So it's flush with the thing. That will drive the crank around, give it a little bit of detail. Put a little bit of super glue in there, or if you can, a bit of super glue inside when you sandwich it, or a bit of Eldite to hold that screw in there. It won't come out because it just ain't going to, because it's got the little hexagon on there anyway. Get your half brass BA nut, wind that on to the end, near enough. Now this is the hard bit, very fiddly. Big brass tube which goes on there. And you've got to put 2 washers, brass, one in between each one. So bear with me. So what's going to happen is that will slide on first, then a washer. Actually grab then the crank, and then another washer. Then you've got to find the hole, wind that in, making sure that it goes in like so. That's going to be loose, so what you need to do is the crank is exactly the same distance between the centre of the axle to the crank pin. That hole there needs to be in line with that, and you've got that BA nut in there, needs to be tightened up whilst that is still in line with that. So hasn't got to be dead perfect, it just moves slightly. So get a pair of pliers, or if you've got a BA spanner, even better. Tighten that up so that is in line with that. Hasn't got to be perfect, but it does help to make free running. You can see. And that's that. Very straightforward. So if anyone has any questions, I can take photos of how all the parts go, but you can see on there, washer, connecting rod, washer, piston rod, nut, return crank. It's that simple. Right, now the valve gear parts, means you have a very small rod. That's why I printed them in silver. You don't have to do anything with them, just a little bit of clean up. A tiny little connector for the valve. What you want to do, clean them up so they slide in. Get a small 1.6 screw, which is the same length as that in between. Get a screwdriver. Screw that in. Done. We want to try and keep it not too tight, just so you can give it a little tweak here and there once it's on the model. If you want it to move and pivot, then I recommend opening the holes out on this part, so that can pivot up and down and make it a little bit looser. So it's not made to work, but you can. Then so I've got one with a brass rod already attached. I glued it in, so I can't get out. So I do the same again. There's a bit of 1.5mm brass. Screw that in with the brass rod. That will literally go inside there. So, but we won't fit that just yet. This is what you say, if you leave this loose, it's easier to set things up until you're happy with everything working. Got the link from the return crank to the valve rod. The circle part goes to the bottom of the return crank. Let's zoom in a bit. So that goes on the top. Make sure that the screw goes through that loosely. You have to drill it out a little bit. So the screw goes in there loose. Can't see what I'm doing. And then screw that very carefully on there. So that is nice and loose, and I think I've got that the wrong way around. Bear with me. Don't think it really matters which way it goes round. So that can then pivot around. I haven't got the connecting rod connected to the other side, so it's not working properly. So you want to make sure that is nice and loose on there. Double check. So you may have to put a washer under there. I will supply them just to keep it away from rubbing against that surface. Now for the hard part, get your connecting rod, run bear with me, sorry, put a nut on there first. So, get your rod and screw that in. There. And wind a little nut out. That goes through there.